It all started at the company Christmas party. It was on December 18th because that was the night the company could rent a room in a nice local hotel. I'd been with the company for 17 years. I was one of the first salespeople Jack Carter hired when he founded Carter Real Estate. We worked to make it one of the top real estate companies in the state. Old Jack retired a couple years ago, and now his son, Jack Jr., was the guy who was portrayed on billboards and in commercials. He didn't know much about real estate, but he didn't need to know much. The two older secretaries and I joined forces to keep the ship afloat. The younger one just got his paycheck and stayed out of it. I, on the other hand, was getting a nice check at home, so I didn't worry about Jackie, as we called him in the office. He liked to flaunt and play high roller, and that suited me just fine. At least it was until things got personal. There were about 40 people at the gala, including the sales staff, office staff, and all their spouses. There was a DJ and dancing after a very good meal. I had a couple beers and felt quite relaxed and satisfied. We had a good year in terms of sales, and my year-end tax report should reflect that. I liked being in that small percentage that actually benefited from the last tax cut. As I chatted, I thought about the fact that I might even vote Republican next time. Janice, my wife of 15 years and mother of our 2 children, was dressed in a short black dress that showed off her assets beautifully. She was not a busty woman, but had worked on staying slim, and her full B cups looked quite impressive with the bra she had stuffed her breasts into. Even after all these years, she seemed like the sexiest woman I'd ever seen. Perhaps part of it was due to the fact that I loved her completely, but she was still stunning. Maureen, the only person left with Carter R.E. who had come into the company before me, brought me out of my reverie. "Harry, keep an eye on Jackie boy," she whispered. "Looks like he'll be carrying the torch for Janice tonight. He doesn't seem to mind acting like a pig in front of Laura or his father." Laura was Jackie's trophy bride. She was about 35 years old and very lush. She was his second wife. The first had divorced him when she found out about Laura. I looked across the dance floor and saw Jackie dancing with Janice. He had her pressed against him, and his hand seemed to be dangerously close to her ass. Laura was sitting next to the orchestra and didn't seem to notice her husband's social blunder. At least it seemed like a slip to me. Don't grope or hit a guy's wife at a Christmas party, at least not too explicitly. Apparently, this rule was hard to enforce. Janice laughed at his jokes and caught every word he said. I realized she knew the score and was just trying to be sociable. At least that's what I told myself. I walked over and asked Laura to dance, and soon we were next to Jackie and Janice. Janice looked a little flushed, with droplets of sweat appearing on her forehead. "How's my best employee today?" asked Jackie generously. God, how he loved playing the role of Big Kahuna for the ladies and for himself. Technically, I was self-employed and working on commission, but Jackie probably didn't realize it. He wanted everyone to think of him as my boss and benefactor. I saw no reason to correct him or diminish his impression of me. "I'm fine, Jack," I replied. "What a party you threw tonight." "Well, I believe in rewarding all the little people who help keep my company on top," he replied smugly. "I was just telling Janice what my plans are for you and my company, Harry." I knew he was talking nonsense now. I was earning my commissions and probably taking home more than Jackie was. I had no way to improve except to sell more, unless Carter R.E. increased my percentage. That, I knew, would be old Jack's solution. Besides, I was already making more than anyone else. I wondered if Janice smelled anything. She was a sharp cookie, even though we didn't discuss my job too much. I'm the kind of guy who likes to forget about work in my spare time and just enjoy life. "Jack, you're so good to Harry," Laura laughed. I couldn't tell if she was being serious or just laughing at her husband. "We certainly appreciate Jack's caring attitude toward Harry, Laura," Janice stated kindly. "Both Jack and his father have always been very kind to us." Jack grinned broadly, guiding Janice across the floor. "I appreciate your patience with that pompous donkey," whispered Laura in my ear. "He always wants to be a big shot, but he doesn't know how to make it. He's very lucky that his father was very successful. If it was all up to him, he'd be picking shit with the chickens." I burst into laughter at Laura's very accurate observation. I guess Jackie hadn't fooled everyone. We danced gloriously, and then I took Laura to her seat. Soon I noticed that old Jack was dancing with Janice, and Jackie was holding the new traveling salesman's young wife in his arms. After a while, Maureen asked me to get her coat. The coat closet was across the hall from the banquet room we were using. Armed with the memory of the color and style of her coat, I boldly entered the room full of furs and coats. I had forgotten that people using the other banquet hall also leave their coats in this room. There were several rows of coats hanging almost to the floor. I crawled as far into the room as I could, trying to find the coat I thought Maureen had described. I even crawled between two coats, trying to find the distinctive blue scarf in the right sleeve. And that's when I heard Jackie. "Janice, you know you like life the way it is. You have a beautiful home and you can send your kids to the best colleges. I wouldn't want you to lose all that. I'm just suggesting that you meet me a few times, discreetly. I know you like me," he continued. "Why not let me take you to a few places and show you things Harry hasn't even considered?" I was beyond furious, picturing Jackie lightly nuzzling Janice. Did the goon really think she believed his ramblings? I peeked between the two sleeves and saw their torsos and heads. While Jackie was talking to Janice, he slipped his hand into her bodice. She made no attempt to remove his hand. I got dizzy and had to hold onto the bar to keep my balance. "Jack, I really don't think that would be appropriate," Janice replied quietly. "You have a beautiful wife and I'm married." "That's why I'm so attracted to you, Janice. God, you have a wonderful bust." "It's a Christmas party, and I'm allowed a little freedom, aren't I?" asked Janice. "I really don't think we should go out again, except with our spouses." "I don't think you understand what I'm telling you, Janice," roared Jackie. He seemed to be cruelly twisting Janice's breasts as he spoke. "You like Harry making a lot of money, and I'm the reason he does it. If you want him to keep supporting you in the same style you're used to, you'll please me." Janice gasped as he pinched and twisted her. He roughly pulled her to him and kissed her hard. To her shame, Janice slid her hand down his neck and kissed him back. After what seemed like minutes, they stopped kissing. "I thought you'd see things my way," Jackie grinned. "I knew you were the kind of bitch who liked it rough. I'll call you to make arrangements." "I certainly don't want Harry to lose his job," Janice agreed. "He'd be devastated, and the kids would be going to college in a few years." Jackie laughed again as they left the dressing room. I was emotionally drained. I felt weak and shaky trying to gather my thoughts. Janice was far more important to me than commissions, work, or even my home. Would she give in to Jackie's blackmail? What should I do to prevent it? My thoughts were running wild. I heard Maureen call my name. I replied that I was in the back room and couldn't find her coat. She walked back to where I was standing, quickly got up and took the coat off the hanger. "Are you okay, Harry?" she asked. "You look very pale and you're sweating all over." "I think it might have been the shrimp or the pasta," I replied. "I'm feeling better now. It's just a temporary thing." "I hope so," Maureen nodded. "I hope Jackie and Janice didn't get infected, too. I saw them leaving just as I entered the hallway." I looked her in the eye and warned, "Don't jump to conclusions, but thanks for noticing. You're a good friend." "Janice was a wonderful wife, Harry. You know that. Don't go crazy," Maureen warned. "Yes, Mom," I grinned. "You're right, of course. I'm letting you in on a little secret that I hope you can keep for a couple weeks." "I'm all ears, Harry," Maureen cheered. She loved gossip and secrets. "I highly doubt I'll be working for this company after the new year. I can't take that asshole Jackie boy anymore. I've been ignoring him, but he's made it impossible. I feel sorry for old Jack, but Junior is not my problem, and I'll keep it up. I've had a few verbal offers over the years, and I'll fulfill them tomorrow," I vowed. "Do me a favor, Harry," asked Maureen. "See if there's room in your new office for an experienced old broad who knows the business thoroughly." I hugged her tightly and laughed. She was more loyal to me than she was to Jack. Maybe she was more loyal to me than my own wife. When I returned to the party, Janice was already waiting for me. She looked worried, and I wondered if she suspected I knew what she had been up to. "Where have you been, Harry?" she asked. "I've been looking all over the house for you." "You didn't look in the stall I was in," I lied. "I had a little trouble with the shrimp or the dip or something, but I'm feeling much better now." "Oh, Harry, you should have told me," my wife admonished. "You know you feel better when I'm taking care of you." "Did you have your hands full taking care of Junior, or should I say, did he have his hands full?" replied I. Harry, are you jealous? She asked, arching an eyebrow. You know you're the only man for me. All the more reason for you not to worry about some two-faced ladies' man. That did make me feel better, but there was still the matter of his hand squeezing Janice's breasts. It was a vision I wouldn't soon forget. Janice stayed by my side for the rest of the evening, and I began to enjoy myself. She danced beside me and ran her hands over my chest and neck. I noticed Jackie watching us a lot. I pulled Janice even closer when I felt his gaze on me. I wondered if I was being possessive and trying to make him jealous. Then I realized it was a twisted thought. Janice was my wife, and we slept together. Dancing with her shouldn't make him jealous. Her body belonged to me, and I cherished and loved it every damn day. Somehow I felt closer than ever to Janice, but at the same time I was very angry with her. Just a woman has the ability to negate a man's anger with just a look or the closeness of her breasts. Janice sat very close to me as we drove home. By the time we got to the house, Janice had driven herself to a frenzy. We barely made it to the bedroom before she had already taken off her dress and was unclasping her bra. Wow, Janice, what happened to the double peaks? I pointed to her breasts. Looks like you gave them a good tug and twist. Anything you want to tell me? I realized she hadn't expected her breasts to be so red and me to be so observant. She looked at herself, then at me. Oh, looks like someone's been playing with them, doesn't it? She teased. And what are you going to do? Leave them alone so someone else can have some fun? Or are you going to come here and claim ownership again? I was still annoyed that she'd let Jackass play with her bust, but there was something in her words. Did she really know me better than I knew myself? Harry, they're yours! I swear they're yours! And then, as I pulled away from her swollen breasts, she said something that made me so hot I almost lost my senses right there on the spot. You might want to claim the little girl back in the same way. There's no telling who was playing with her tonight, purred Janice. How did she know my buttons so well? Finally, I heard what I had been waiting for so long. Harry, please, stop, pleaded Janice. I don't think I can take much more. She's all yours. Show her who she belongs to, Harry. I climbed up Janice's body, licking and nibbling every inch of her. She liked it at first, but after a minute or so, Janice started begging again. Please fuck me, Harry, she moaned. Jesus, she muttered after a few minutes. You shook the shit out of me. Did the thought of having someone else with me turn you on so much? I thought for a few seconds before answering, I guess so, as long as it's a little game we're playing. You are a dream come true for me, but sometimes it's just a wet dream. And yet I feel that you are mine, and I am yours. I would go to hell for you if I knew you loved me and were true to me. Sweetheart, Janice exclaimed, that's all a woman can ask of her man. I am yours, body and soul. Never doubt it. Then how did your breasts get so red and swollen? I asked. Honey, it was a Christmas party. Didn't I see you fondling Andy's wife? Janice asked. Damn, did you see that? I laughed. I thought I was being very sneaky. Andy saw it too. He insisted on getting his revenge by feeling my breasts and ass during the dance. Janice giggled. You missed something, big boy. I didn't miss little Jack squeezing your ass during the dance and you letting him, I replied. Honey, I don't think you should call him little Jack. When he squeezed my ass, it showed amazing size and firmness, Janice teased. You're just a jealous, horny bastard, Janice laughed as she took a breath. Good thing the kids are at Mom's tonight. They would have called the police when they heard me moaning and screaming. We fell asleep in each other's arms. Lying in bed, I thought about how wonderful it was that a woman like Janice had found something to love about me. I squeezed her breasts, remembering how Jack had felt her a few hours ago. It angered me that Janice had let him do it, and that he thought he could do it. And yet Janice seemed loyal and faithful to me. One could be a little risky at a Christmas party. I was no angel in that regard. Nevertheless, I had to sort out my thoughts and pay close attention to what was going on. By noon the next day, I had made arrangements with another real estate company in the area. It was a Sunday, but realtors often work weekends. The owner of the company was happy to set up an appointment when I explained to him the reason for my call. The commission was very generous, but I had to bring my clients with me. I was confident that I could sell enough to them and for them to keep my income the same. It was very flattering to have another professional actively working to hire me. The company knew I had developed a following over 17 years and was willing to compensate me accordingly. I asked if I could start on January 1st, and he agreed. I also asked him to keep everything confidential until I let Jack know. In my business, there is no 2-week notice. If you move to another company for a job, they can't get your ass out the door fast enough. The computer, files, floppy disks, and disks stay with the company. I was relieved, looking forward to the new year. I was becoming increasingly annoyed with Jack's pompous behavior. His attempt to get even with Janice had simply freed me from any obligation I might have felt. Besides, I had a nice deal closing coming up between Christmas and New Year's Eve, and I wanted to make sure I got my check for it. The best way to be safe was to not let anyone know I was leaving. I mentally marked Maureen to keep the cat out of the bag. I knew I could count on her. I took the day off and watched a soccer game. The next day, I was in the office early in the morning. I didn't want to miss any business or shenanigans Jack might pull. I talked to Maureen about not spreading my plans for QT. Around 11 a.m., Jack asked me to come into his office. I was surprised that he came so early. He usually aimed for noon and only rarely achieved that goal. "I've signed you and Ray Jensen up for a seminar in Dallas next week, Harry. I know it's very soon, but the best deal makers are supposed to be there," the poor bastard apologized. "I'll arrange your flight for Wednesday, the 29th, and you'll be back Thursday night just in time for New Year's Eve." "Gee, Jack, I don't know what to say," I mewed. "I guess I could ask Janice if she wants to go on a little trip." Jack looked worried, or was it just me? He quickly lowered his eyes and thought about something. "Because of the holidays, we only had one spare room, so you and Ray will be staying together. You'll have separate beds, though," he laughed. Jack had never shown any desire to pay for the extra tuition. He'd even resisted advertising. I smelled a rat. "Sure, Jack, I'll go," I told him. "I can always use any trick to help close the deal." "Great," said Jack with more than a little relief. "I'll get everything set up. All you have to do is report to the airport. I'll have someone drive you if you want." I knew the creep was up to something. He was too nice and obliging. I knew he was spending all that money and time just to get into my wife's pants. I also knew that one of us was going to die before that happened. It was Christmas week, which is always a slow week for our work. I informed everyone in the office that I would be out of the office, looking for leads and preparing for the holiday. First, I set aside time to finalize the arrangement with Carter R.E. It was set for Tuesday, the day before Jack would be flying out of town. The timing couldn't have been better. The pigs would be flying before me. I wasn't going to leave, nor was I going to give that miserable bugger time to stalk my wife. I kept my eye on Janice. Not that I didn't trust her, but there was no need for foolishness. She was the hunter's prey, and I was sure she wouldn't fall into a trap or sleep with him. Janice worked as a teacher at the middle school, and Thursday was the start of her vacation. I figured as long as she was at work, she was safe. I did take the time to get her more gifts, and even better gifts than before. It annoyed me that I felt like I was competing with Jack for her affection. It was like a new date. It also made me more attentive to Janice. I tried my best to buy her a few things that she would like. It must have been nice to know that a guy wanted to get into your wife's pants. It made me much more sensitive to her needs and desires. It also made me realize that I would do crazy shit if it ever happened. We had a wonderful Christmas. The kids were happy with their presents. When Janice opened the little box with the pearl necklace I bought for her, I thought she was going to cry. She threw herself into my arms and hugged and kissed me until the wee hours of the morning. I felt great and decided that I would always give her something special. The next day, we visited Janice's parents and went with them to a show at a local theater. The next day, we visited my parents, watched a couple of movies, and had drinks with my siblings and their families. Every night, the sex was great. I felt a hunger for my wife that I hadn't felt since we were first married. Janice noted my increased libido several times, but made no complaints. On Monday, I told her that Jack was sending Ray Jensen and me to Dallas for some kind of seminar. I noticed that she didn't seem very surprised. My head was spinning. Had I missed something? After all, we'd been together the whole vacation. Then it occurred to me that I was taking a 40-minute walk every night to keep from gaining excess weight. Sales is not the easiest field in which to stay slim. She could have talked to Jack then. You waited a long time to tell me, didn't you? Janice snickered. I have the day off, and I thought we could do a few things together. I want to do that, too. It's just that Jack was willing to spend the money to send me. I would have taken you with me, but there was only one spare room, and Ray Jensen will be sharing it with me, I reasoned. We'll have separate beds, though. Wow, that's a relief. I was afraid you'd come back a switch or a shithead, growled Janice. It was obvious she wasn't happy. I went out for a walk that evening, but went back to the back door and quietly entered. Janice was cooking dinner and the kids were watching TV. I snuck up the stairs and sat on my bed. Then I waited, holding the phone in my hand and keeping my finger on the button. That way it would ring, but I could eavesdrop without making noise, I hoped. It took about 10 minutes, but the phone rang. It was the same Jack. So Janice, all set for Wednesday night? He asked. Did you get rid of the kids? I was ready to turn into the Incredible Hulk. My blood vessels were swelling and my heart was racing. My mom will take them for the night, Janice replied. Jack, are you sure about this? Harry has been your best producer for years. Laura is a wonderful woman and she is your wife. You could hurt them both. After feeling your breasts, I'm sure of it. Harry will never find out if you play your cards right. And Laura won't find out either. Don't hesitate or Harry will be on his ass and your lifestyle will go down the drain. Just think of it as the act of a betrayed wife trying to make her husband's career. He laughed. I wondered if I could hear my temples throbbing on the phone. I wanted to kill that pathetic shit. Janice wasn't too thrilled with me either. The door will be unlocked and it's dark upstairs, Janice replied with instructions for the bastard. Go up the stairs. The bedroom is upstairs. I'll be expecting you at 8. Don't come any earlier or later. You little slut, Jack laughed. I can't wait to pet Harry's ass. If I like it, I'll send him on trips more often. You expect to do that more than once? Janice gasped. I thought once would be enough. You'll want more than you can get in one night, you little effeminate slut. I'll have you for years. You'll get addicted to me, bitch. The asshole grinned gloatingly. I'll be there at 8. Jack hung up the phone, and I heard Janice put hers down. I slammed down the phone I was holding in my hand. I was close to going downstairs and shaking Janice awake. I'd never hurt her in my life, and I knew I couldn't start now. It was just the rage I felt. I hurried down the stairs and slipped out the door. I had never felt so anxious to go out alone on a dark night. Janice must know that my position at Carter R.E. wasn't worth her selling herself. Was this what she wanted? Did she like the son of a bitch? Was I not satisfying her in bed and in life? I decided that even if I wasn't the perfect husband, I didn't deserve this. She should have come to me if she was having problems. She should have told me about what Jack was trying to do. I decided that desperate times called for desperate measures. I made plans and pondered whether I would be a free man by Thursday morning. One thing I was sure of, that creep wouldn't get my wife. That evening, Janice was reserved and we hardly spoke at all. It suited my mood just fine. The next day, I went to the final closing of the deal at Carter R.E. and picked up my check afterward. $8,000 was a decent severance package, I decided. I got home early and Janice took a much warmer attitude toward me. She seemed happy, humming and humming as she prepared the family dinner. I didn't like her elevated mood. That night in bed, I tried to be calm and composed. I hated myself for being weak. I cuddled her against me, putting her hair under my nose, and fell asleep. The next morning, Janice helped me pack my bag for the overnight trip. I found it hard to talk to her as I prepared to leave. I kissed her, and she confessed her love to me as the car pulled up to take me to the airport. I realized that I loved her so much that it hurt. I kissed her again and whispered to her, "You have to be patient, and I'll be back soon to take care of you." I rode to the airport with Ray. He was excited about the trip, and I tried not to let him know anything was wrong. As we got out of the car and headed towards security, I stopped him. "Ray, have a great time. I can't make the trip. I can't explain right now, but please don't tell anyone I'm not on the plane. Especially don't tell Jack. He'll fire me on the spot," I reasoned. "Just keep it quiet until you get back, okay?" Ray was a good guy, albeit a little embarrassed. He nodded, we shook hands, and I went outside and caught a cab. I called Maureen from my cell phone and asked if Jack was home. She said he was. I asked her to print out a note and slip it under Jack's door as he was leaving the room. I told her I would explain everything the next day. Maureen realized something was up and promised to follow my instructions exactly. "I want you to write this," I dictated. "Please come at 8:30 sharp. The family will be here before then." She repeated, and I hung up. It was already noon, and I had a cab drop me off at a small restaurant. I had lunch and walked around the nearby shopping center for a few hours. It seemed to be the longest day of my life. Finally, at 7, I caught another cab to drop me off a few blocks from home. From across the street and out of the driveway, I could see Janice's parents loading up my kids and carrying them off to their place. It was quiet outside, and around 7:45 darkness fell on my house. I walked up the stairs, more nervous than ever. At exactly 8, I opened the door and headed for the stairs. The only nightlight pointed the way. At the top of the stairs, I took a deep breath and stepped inside. I could hear her breathing on the bed. I was angrier than ever and hornier than ever. I quickly took off my clothes and walked over to the bed. I heard Janice's breathing stop for a second. Then she started taking short, quick breaths. I decided that I would show her who owned her once and for all. I found her feet and slid my face along her legs. I thought to myself that she believes that it is Jack doing her favors, and that is why she is so incredibly hot. I don't know how long I caressed her, but she trembled and tried to push my face away until I finally stopped. Then I lifted up and started rubbing myself against her. I was as rough as I had never been, and never would be with my beloved wife. I lost track of time and space, turning my head a few degrees to look into Jack Carter's burning eyes. "Surprised I came first, you pathetic piece of shit? You're not sleeping with that wife," I declared. "I don't think she has another sex in her. Do you, Janice?" I turned to Janice again. She had blonde hair, and her ass was wider than I had ever noticed. Confused, I flipped her over onto her back. It was Laura Carter. "Actually, your wife has another sex," I heard Jack say from behind me. "But I'll be surprised as hell if she does." Janice was standing in the doorway behind Jack's back. I shifted my gaze from her to Laura and back to her. "What the hell?" was all I could manage to utter. "You fucked my wife, you bastard!" Jack yelled. "I'm firing you, and I think I'm going to kick your ass." Jack raised his hands into fists, and I jumped up to meet him. I was in for another complete shock. My brother Ben, who was a bricklayer, weighed about 240 pounds and was well over 6 feet tall, walked into the room. He grabbed Jack by the collar and took off with him. I could hear Jack thrashing around the room. Then the door swung open, and Ben yelled, "Don't you ever bring your sorry ass in here, or I'll throw it across the street." I sat down on the bed next to Laura. I looked at her for the first time. She was an attractive woman. She was a little heavy for my taste, but few men could throw her off the bed. She seemed to be coming to her senses. "Good God, I've never been had like this," she moaned. "I knew it couldn't be Jack. You were incredible." "And you won't be had like that again," interposed Janice. "If I'd known Harry was going to interrupt the dance, I'd be in this bed by now." "I don't understand what's going on here," I muttered. "I thought you were the one waiting for Jack. I would never cheat on you, Janice." "You're so lucky I turned out to be the idiot who suggested Laura wait in our bed, lover boy. You just got free sex with no strings attached." Janice smirked. "I knew you were in the dressing room that night, you big dummy. I lured Jack in there so you'd know what he was up to. I wanted to see what you were going to do. This fucking job doesn't mean shit to me. I know you can get a better job at any time. You're the best." Janice continued. "When it started looking like you were going to let that bastard come in here and fuck me, I told Laura. She knows Jack is playing a trick on me, and we thought that way we could catch him in the act. I guess I underestimated you. I didn't realize you were in here sleeping with Laura until I heard Jack come in. When he flicked the light switch, I knew you had a plan." I started to have my doubts when Laura moaned non-stop for a full half hour. Ben was here in case Jack got out of control. "I know you could handle a guy, brother, but I figured you must be exhausted. You had that girl like there was no tomorrow. Look at you, you're still dripping sweat," added Ben from the doorway. Janice helped Laura get dressed, and I grabbed a robe and joined Ben in the kitchen. I'd never had a better beer or appreciated my little brother more. He just grinned as he told me how he and Janice were amazed at the sounds coming from the bedroom. Then, when they were ready to sneak up the stairs and surprise Jack, they heard the front door open and hid again. Janice was very suspicious by then, Ben laughed. She ran for the stairs, muttering something about how she thought it looked like you were the one having fun up there. We got there when the lights came on. You were like a man possessed. You didn't even notice Janice when you told Jack she was the only wife he wouldn't have. That was a great touch. Ben made me laugh. The way he told the story sounded like a Marx Brothers movie. I was still worried about how Janice would take it all and what kind of trouble Laura would get into. Laura and Janice appeared in the doorway. "I just wanted to tell you not to worry about me," Laura smiled. "Jack can't afford to be too outraged. He's yet to explain why he's here. I have a good excuse. Harry, I'll never forget you, I promise. Thank you." She gave me a quick kiss and walked with Janice to the door. Ben laughed, wished me luck, and headed home. Janice came back into the house and sat on my lap. I took her in my arms and tried to apologize. "Hush, husband," she whispered. "You have nothing to apologize for. You defended your home and family. I am proud of you. I'm only worried that Laura will tell the other women what a fantastic lover you are, and I'll have to watch you every minute. Did you really think you were sleeping with me? Her breasts are much bigger. So is her ass, isn't it?